In this module, we're going to discuss Manage Privileged Identities. Managed privileged identities includes several different things. Rather than installing a role or a feature, the ESAE approach is more of a way of doing security in a better, more secure manner. Then we're going to talk about just-in-time administration and just-enough administration. Now, you usually implement either one or the other because their approach is different, but they both kind of do the same thing. And that is, administrators have a lot of access. And if their passwords or other credentials get compromised, then you don't want all of their access to be opened up to the world. So we're going to talk about how you can create a separate domain in Forest that helps authenticate and authorize an administrator to have just enough or just-in-time authorization into a resource, and then when it's done, it closes that off. We're also going to talk about lapse. And this has to do with the local administrator password. And sometimes we have to go into a computer and we have to go in as a local administrator instead of a domain or other administrator. But this can open us up to various different security holes, and lapse helps close those holes up. So now let's discuss the ESAE approach. The Enhanced Security Administrative Environment is a reference architecture, and it's designed to protect administrative accounts and their credentials from exposure to malicious access by sequestering them in a separate Active Directory domain in Forest. Now, as I mentioned earlier, ESAE is not a product, it's not a role, and it's not a feature. Instead, it's a collection of design principles that enables you to create a separate single domain Forest. That Forest is then implemented as a separate Active Directory management service. So because the administrative Forest sees limited use, you can harden it to a greater degree than your production Forests, which may have simpler or easier security. So we're going to demonstrate this in an upcoming video, but let's continue on with the ESAE approach. What we'll do in our production Forest is we'll create a one-way Forest trust. And that will allow the administrative Forest to just get in to the production Forest just long enough to do the ESAE approach. That approach includes a tiered environment, tier 0, 1, and 2. You don't have to do this approach, but you can in order to allow administrators to only have specific access as they need it. A tier 0 account has direct administrative control over enterprise identities, including Forest domains, domain controllers, and their assets. But a tier 1 account has direct administrative access control over enterprise servers and applications, so that's a completely different area of control. And a tier 2 account has direct administrative control over user workstations and device accounts. Accounts in each tier have direct administrative access to servers in the same tier, but they are also permitted to access resources in lower tiers only when required by a specific administrative role. Accounts are blocked from accessing resources in higher tiers. The ESAE architecture also calls for other methods of protecting accounts, including the following. Server hardware. Computers accessed by the accounts in the administrative Forest should support the secure boot capability provided as part of the UEFI interface. This used to be called the BIOS, but has now been updated. And they must also have the Trusted Platform Module chips, which we talked about in previous videos. They must also have selective authentication. When you create a Forest trust, you have the option of using Forest-wide or selective authentication. Selective authentication enables you to restrict the accounts in the administrative Forest to specific servers in the production Forest. Multi-factor authentication. All of the accounts in the administrative Forest, except one, should require multi-factor authentication. And you can do that by using smart cards or another secondary authentication mechanism, such as Duo, which is available on your smartphone. One account should be accessible using only a password in the event of a problem with the multi-factor authentication mechanism. Limited privilege accounts in the administrative Forest used to manage production Forest resources should not have administrative privileges. They should not have administrative privileges to the forest or its domains and its workstations. Administrative accounts should also have no access to user resources that provide attack vectors, such as email and the internet. Another best practice, server updates. All computers in the administrative forest should be automatically updated with all new security updates using Windows Server Update Services or another mechanism. You should have a clean source as well. So all computers in the administrative forest should run the latest operating system and should be installed using media that's been validated using the clean source principle. Now, there's many different ways to get a clean source. One of those comes from Microsoft Windows itself. You can implement the Health Credentials Protocol to make sure that before issuing a DHCP IP address, the computer has its antivirus up to date, as well as its Windows updates, and has its firewall turned on. Whitelisting computers accessed using administrative forest accounts should be restricted to safe applications using a whitelisting product such as AppLocker. If you don't do this, it's possible that the whitelisted accounts will be able to do whatever they want without having any kind of protection in case they're compromised. A good intrusion detection and prevention system in the administrative forest should be scanned regularly for potential security threats using tools such as Attack Surface Analyzer or Advanced Threat Analytics. The enhanced security administration approach can greatly increase your server security to protect you from threats both internally and externally.